Well, my video for today is going to be about a subject that has turned out to be a bigger issue than I ever would have imagined. You can see that I've got some of these plastic spoons. Everybody likes these. And they're very useful for testing paint, especially metallic paint. Get yourself a black spoon like this and hey. Anyway, I have in recent memory made a video about doing a metal finish with a brush on a my old Revell P36. Why don't I just bring that model out here? Come on now, don't be shy. There it is. I finished this with a brush using the Daler and Rowney silver ink, and it turned out okay. But all the while I was working on it, no paint was harmed during the making of this video. While I was working on it, I began to realize that there was some sort of deeper problem going on here, because my original intent had been to demonstrate one of these everybody's favorite silver paint, Vallejo metal color. But that didn't happen. And I think what I needed to do, or what I need to do now, is make another video where I explain what's going on here. Because as of today, it's not April 1st, so we're safe. As of today, the Vallejo metal color is being promoted, widely promoted, as the best, and I have got some reservations about it if you're going to use a brush. So I will now begin to tell my long and fascinating story. Once upon a time, about 8 years ago, I went out and bought a bottle of paint that looked a lot like this. And I was really not certain what I was going to end up with, because Vallejo metal color comes from some people called Vallejo. I had some serious issues with them. I'd say 15 to 20 years ago, I bought some of their model color, and I didn't just buy a little of it. I was convinced, due to online marketing, I was convinced that they made the best paint for painting with a brush. So I gave it a shot, and I was very disappointed. Now I believe that brush marks and streaks are two different things. I think most people would agree with me on that. A brush mark is a three-dimensional micro groove, which the brush cuts into the paint, and the paint should smooth that out as it dries. It should be self-leveling, as it's called. Well, that didn't happen with Vallejo model color, and I found myself out $50. $50 I spent on paint, and in those days, $50 you could use that to get. You could go down to the Mega Mall and take your sweetie to a movie. Maybe even ride the Ferris wheel, and you'd still have a little bit of change in your pocket when you went home. If you ate at McDonald's, anyway. So that was a lot of money back in those days, so I was pretty upset. Fast forward to today. As part of getting ready to do this channel, I decided to give Vallejo model color another try, because the paint that I had been very happy with, made by testers, their Model Master line, as well as the late great Polyscale, these all went away, and I was looking for a replacement. So I tried the Vallejo, expecting it to be terrible, and guess what? It was fine. It worked great. Anyway, 8 years ago, I think I've lost my timeline. I've lost the plot, and I've lost the whole thread. But 8 years ago, Vallejo's helped me out in so many ways. All I have to do is just say the magical name Vallejo. Things begin to fall apart immediately. Vallejo metal color I bought 8 years ago, thinking that I didn't have much confidence in it, but it was worth a try. Shazam! This stuff was pure magic. Now, a couple of years went by. Oh, let me show you something that I did with Vallejo. Now, this might be beginner's luck, but I had a real good time painting this P47N with a brush using Vallejo metal color right there. I thought it looked pretty good, considering that it was painted with a brush. I was very happy with it. I was so happy with it, I went a little bit crazy. I painted everything, cookie jars, the dog's dish, everything got painted with it while I was experimenting around. And I ran through an entire bottle of the paint. So I went down and bought a second bottle. The second bottle was different. Something had changed, but I was not yet mentally ready to accept that. Only a couple of years had gone by, and the paint seemingly had changed. But I didn't think it was the paint. I thought it was me. What I did not notice, I didn't notice that the paint had now this is really something, actually. The label had this new formula notification on it. New formula. I didn't see that. I didn't notice it. I painted a few models, and they just didn't look the same. For example, here is this Revell MiG-21. Something about it seemed different to me. Now, it's kind of hard to see on camera here. Now, I'm not doing myself any favors with this camera set up right now, but something had changed in the way the paint acted. There was something very strange going on. But again, I didn't blame the paint. I blamed myself because I thought your skills just aren't good enough. Something's wrong. Something's gone off, and it's you. I took the blame, didn't blame the paint. Now, this was 4 or 5 years ago. All this was going on. At which point, some of the evidence disappeared. And I caused it to disappear by putting Windex in the metal color that I had. This is a bad combination. Don't do that. This stuff, for whatever reason, turns this shiny metal paint into a very dull gray paint. Yeah. Of all the great things Windex does, it doesn't work on the metal color. Now, why would I put Windex in there? The answer is complicated. I put the Windex in there because the original 8 years ago paint from Vallejo, the original 8 years ago, brand new, model color paint that did not say new formula on it. That stuff tended to form into little gritty chunks. And if you opened it up, you would find that you're living in a world of little gritty chunks. And maybe for airbrushing, it was, I don't know if it was a bigger problem or not. I did okay with the brush. Airbrushing this stuff may have been a lot worse because of the tiny chunks that may have clogged the airbrush. I don't know. So Vallejo may very well have had a good reason to come out with the new formula. Right there, new formula. I didn't notice that it said new formula on the label. I just didn't notice. But I noticed there was something fishy about it. There was something different about the way it acted. This affected things pretty seriously. First of all, the finish was not as shiny. Secondly, the paint took a long time to dry. This is very different from the original metal color. The original metal color dried super fast. That's part of the reason that it tended to get chunky and gritty like that. Now we come up to the present day. The new, brand new label metal color smells like Prestone. I don't know if you've ever been in a job where you get a face full of antifreeze. But using this paint will take you back there in a hurry. You'll be time traveling to those wonderful days when you're working on your car under the shade tree in the backyard. And you pull off the hose off the radiator, and you got a nice big face full of hot Prestone. This stuff smells like that. Take you right back there. The original metal color did not smell at all. This stuff has a powerful smell. What Vallejo has done is they've put a much hotter solvent in it. And you can tell when you stir it, you can tell it's different. The grit is gone. And for their airbrushing, for their marketing purposes, for their customer happiness, I'm sure the situation is better now than it's ever been. Which is fine. But now I'm reminded of the scene from Dr. Strangelove where the Russians laboriously explain that they've created an end-of-the-world doomsday device. And then Dr. Strangelove says to them, "Why didn't you tell the world?" Well, the answer is they were waiting for, Brezhnev's birthday. Anyway, Vallejo they didn't change the formula of this stuff once. They did it twice. I think first time they added some hotter solvent. The second time they added a lot hotter solvent. By hotter, I mean stronger. The result of this was to produce serious changes in the product. The question is, why didn't they tell the world? Why didn't they explain this? Why didn't they say anything? I'm going to tell you right now that I believe that Vallejo has a pattern of doing this. I think that when I bought the Vallejo paint 20 years ago, and it didn't work for me, and then mysteriously, recently, it works fine. Somewhere in there, they made a major overhaul of their paint, but they never told anybody. And like the doomsday device, when you don't tell anybody, this can lead to potential problems. Especially if you got Slim Pickens riding a nuke into your ICBM complex. Vallejo, let's just get into this. This is a major problem with our society, okay? Major problem. And I don't know. I don't know if this is going to show up on camera, but I'm going to try it. There's a couple of spoons. The one on the right is Daler and Rowney silver ink, and the one on the left is this jazz, metal color, aluminum. The one on the right is shinier than the one on the left. There are streaks on both of them. It's no big deal. Another coat or two will take care of that. The issue is shininess. The issue is also something you can't see in a video. This is drying rather slowly. I'm not noticing any serious tackiness, but there is some tack. Okay, it's there. You can feel it. The Daler and Rowney ink has no tack. It's dry. Because I was using some techniques that require the paint to be dry, when I started using the mysteriously changed version of Vallejo metal color, I began to run into problems. Okay, I think we've looked at these spoons enough, but hey. Anyway, this product is not the same thing it was 8 years ago. It's been changed. Okay, it has a different label on it now. And they did put new formula on the label, I have to admit that. So I can't claim that the whole thing was done mysteriously behind closed doors. And yet somehow it feels that way to me. And the fact that their model color paint is not the same paint it was. Not at all. 15 years ago, it was a very different product. And Vallejo has changed it, and they never really announced this. Now, when a paint manufacturer changes their paint, there is usually a pretty big announcement. Not in this case. Vallejo has a corporate culture that says we change the paint whenever we feel like it to improve it. Now that's just kind of the way things go now in this world we're living in, because in the so-called modern world, we're used to things being updated all the time. In cyberspace, software gets updated constantly. And it can be a big pain, but it's being updated. And we're getting used to that. Unfortunately, this can break your machine. In fact, some people have had the fun experience of... We'll just put these next to there, where they belong. There we are. That's attractive. Some people have had the experience of having a perfectly good computer that's turned into a brick because of a Windows update that they didn't want. Updates. All the time updates with the updates. It's part of the reality of cyberspace. But you and I do not live in cyberspace. These spoons are not cyberspace spoons right now as I'm patting them. These spoons exist in Einstein space. Now later on when I upload this to... in the wonderful world we now live in, when I upload it to YouTube, these are going to become cyberspace objects. And I may even go back at some point and take out those streaks using AI video editing. But that's not going to happen today. It's not going to happen anytime soon. But within a reasonably short period of time, I'll be able to do stuff like that. But as things stand right now, the hobby that I'm engaged in, the one that I kind of assume you're engaged in, means that we really, really kind of like living in what people used to call the real world, but I'm not so sure about that, so I'm just going to call it Einstein space, because Einstein went to the trouble to explain how it works. In Einstein space, when a company starts goofing around with its products and changing them behind your back, That's a problem. It may not be a problem if you're just talking about, I don't know, fancy underwear that you buy at the mall. I mean, if the company makes it, changes it, I mean, actually, who cares? But if you're doing construction in a major operation, you're building airplanes up in Seattle, I'm not going to name any names, but if you're doing something that's important, and your suppliers keep screwing around, changing things willy-nilly, and not informing you, that can be a problem. Now, this is a well-known issue in the world of engineering. And when you come right down to it, plastic model kits are a kind of hip pocket engineering done by a bunch of people who are happily doing something where you get your real hands on real stuff in Einstein space, and you don't have people like Microsoft and their evil overlords upgrading you all the time. But what Vallejo has done is they've taken this model from cyberspace, from the computer business, and they're saying, guess what, folks? We're going to upgrade your products behind your back all the time, constantly upgrade, and you're just going to have to get used to it. Now, one of the sources of the problem is that what I'm doing with this is really hacking it. I have to hack this aluminum paint to make it work for brushing. I have to hack it. Just like you'd be hacking in cyberspace, I'm hacking in Einstein space. And Vallejo is under no obligation to make this work for me. As a matter of fact, the way this actually works and the way I'm seeing it work, all of these endless upgrades impede hacking of all kinds. So if you're a shiny spoon hacker, it's not big time hacking like the Russians do or anything like that. I'm not going to send the Pentagon off to Best Buy to get some help. I'm just hacking spoons at this point. Pretty small time operator. If you're hacking your silver paint on plastic model airplane kits, that's the best you can do, Well, you can't even hack that anymore because companies like Vallejo are going to constantly be upgrading the product behind your back and changing it around so that if you modify it to work with a brush, you can't do that anymore. They're forcing me to follow the label directions. It's yet another thing which is quietly and unobtrusively going to hell. So if you've ever wondered why boomers are so cranky, this is an excellent example of why that is. I'm just very lucky that, bless their hearts, somebody put this stuff on YouTube and I could find it and tried it and it worked. And I still got a product that I can use right here. This stuff has changed. It's not the same product it used to be. It might be better for airbrushing, but that's not what I do. Okay. I want to thank my Patreon supporters. I want to tell the rest of you I want to tell the rest of you wonderful people to go out there and click the like, subscribe, send me some money. I'll see you next time.